Hello, folks. Welcome back. Chris here in Parle. So, welcome to the African National Congress. That's a message I have for the leaders of three parties who've been punked. Now, who's the clever one here? Who is sly like a fox? None other than the plurality party of the African National Congress. They're the clever ones here. They have punked these party leaders into being, well, the subservient little obedient followers. Basically, honorary membership in the African National Congress needs to be extended to John Steenhuisen of the Democratic Alliance, to Gayton McKenzie of the Patriotic Alliance, and to Herman Mashaba of Action SA, because all have been punked over something they should have been punked on. First off, let's start with John Steenhuisen. The Democratic Alliance held all the power in the post-election negotiations and walked away with virtually nothing of substance. The ANC needed the DA. It could not rule without the DA. It couldn't cobble together enough parties because MK and EFF weren't joining, and we're never going to join, especially MK. So the ANC didn't hold any of the cards, yet they walked away with everything they wanted. Not only did they walk away with everything they wanted, but they think that they actually owned the GNU. The government national unity, they believe, is their responsibility, their agreement. They can do what they want. And the proof in the pudding there is that they invited 8 additional parties into it without consulting with the DA. Basically, they were being their bitches. And that's what happened. And it's what's happened ever since then. They already had bills sitting in front of the president, which he signed, without consulting these parties. And his argument was, well, the previous parliament approved them, so I'm just signing them into law. And that's a statement of fact. But it shows you just how weak the other members of the government national unity are and how they're expected to lavishly praise the ANC government and do what it tells them to do. So, the Bella Bill, done and dusted. The black tax, 3%, done and dusted. Well, not yet, but it'll come. The Expropriation Without Compensation Act, done and dusted. And the opposition parties did and said virtually nothing. Nothing at all. Nothing has been done. So Steenhuisen does what Ramaphosa tells him to do, not what the voters expect of him. So welcome to the African National Congress, junior partner, little John Steenhuisen. Moving on to our next candidate, Gayton McKenzie. Remember Gayton McKenzie? He ran for office. Illegal foreigners will be kicked out of the country within 30 days. Has that happened? Not even remotely. We will stand for the people. Really? You stood with the ANC to increase taxes on people and impoverish them, and came up with a bunch of mealy-mouthed excuses about why you did it. I have to say this. Recently, I saw Citizen Concern, a video she did on this. Ooh, she rubbishes Gayton McKenzie, and she does it royally, pulling out one video clip after another where he's put his foot in his mouth. Now, this isn't anything against Gayton McKenzie, but stating a fact. You're lavishly bending over backwards to accommodate and please President Ramaphosa, making the argument that you're part of a team and you must do what the team wants you to do. No. A coalition is comprised of partners who bring different things to the table. What has the PA gotten from this government? Nothing. But you bent over backwards and supported this budget, which impoverishes black South Africans and colored South Africans and white South Africans. That's not what you ran on office for. So welcome to the African National Congress, Gayton McKenzie. And our final candidate and our final party that is now part and parcel of the African National Congress. And this party is not actually even in the government national unity. So how could they be part and parcel of this whole deal? Well, that party is none other than Action SA, led by Herman Mashaba. They famously agreed to the budget that, in theory, would increase the value-added tax. On the basis of what? The promise that the VAT would be gone away? Well, they were punked because they don't know the law. They didn't know that under South African law, all we have to do to get a VAT increase is for the Minister of Finance to announce it at the budget meeting, at the conversation for the budget. He announced it, and therefore it's a fait accompli. What kind of country has a law that allows a minister to enact a tax increase verbally without the consent of Parliament? Well, we have a country like South Africa, and we have a political party like Action SA that was suckered into agreeing to this budget on the proviso that the VAT not be increased, but it's a fait accompli. It had already been increased. So, either complicit or clueless. You take your pick. But we have to give warm welcome and junior party membership to John Steenhuisen of the DA. DA's been hoodwinked. They are part of the GNU, and they are the ANC's little biatches. Then we've got Gayton McKenzie and the Patriotic Alliance, also part and parcel of this government, raising taxes on the poor. And finally, we have Athol Trollop, who's not in the government national unity, but nonetheless is complicit in the actions of the African National Congress. So there you have it, folks. We should send them all gifts, send them flower bouquets, and maybe a trophy for their membership in the African National Congress, because that's essentially what they become, extensions of the African National Congress, apologists for the government's errors, instead of being coalition partners that stand, in the case of the first two parties, that stand up for what's right, moral, and just every time. A coalition doesn't mean everyone agrees to everything all the time. A coalition means you're willing to work together on the big issues to form a government so you can advance the country's interests. But that doesn't mean you blindly follow what the ruling party wants. But these three gentlemen almost blindly follow at this stage. Welcome to the African National Congress, John Steenhuisen, Gayton McKenzie, and Herman Mashaba. What say you, South Africa? What say you? Cheers from Parle.